My sister betrayed me with my husband for 2 years while my parents covered it up. I waited 6 months pretending to forgive, then exposed everything at her baby shower in front of 50 people and destroyed them all. I'm 30 years old, work in digital marketing, and I need to tell this story because what happened 6 months ago basically blew up my entire life. But honestly, in a way that needed to happen. The thing is, I was always the invisible daughter, the one who got good grades but never good enough. The one who had a decent job but not impressive enough to brag about at family dinners. My older sister Miranda, 2 years older than me, was the star, the perfect one, the one who could do whatever she wanted, and my parents would just smile and say, "Oh, that's just Miranda." Like that justified everything. We grew up in a Chicago suburb, in one of those nice houses with a yard where everything looked perfect from the outside, but inside there was this toxic dynamic that I didn't fully understand until recently. Miranda was always the favorite, like for as long as I can remember. When we were like 8 and 10 years old, she broke my mom's favorite vase playing ball in the house, something I had been forbidden to do 1,000 times, and when Mom came home and saw the mess, Miranda said it was me, and my parents believed her. Just like that. I cried and screamed that it wasn't me, that I wasn't even in the living room when it happened, but Dad sent me to my room without dinner and Miranda stayed watching TV like nothing happened. That's just one example. But there were hundreds of moments like that, where she got away with everything, and I either took the blame or was just ignored. In high school, Miranda failed an entire semester because she was more interested in going out with guys than studying, and my parents got her expensive tutors and took her on vacation to Europe that summer so she could relax from the stress. I got academic honors, and my reward was a book and that's expected of you. You know what I mean? That was my whole life. I met Evan when I was 24. He was 26, worked in finance, and seemed different from the guys I'd dated before. He was attentive, responsible, had plans for the future. We got married 2 years later, in a small wedding because, according to my parents, there was no point spending a lot of money on something so simple. Even though for Miranda's wedding to Colin they had rented a huge venue and hired a professional DJ. Colin was an architect. Good guy. Kind of boring if I'm honest. But he treated Miranda like a queen, even when she clearly didn't deserve it. I saw how she treated him, always kind of dismissive, always seeking attention from other men even when he was right there. But Colin seemed not to notice, or maybe he didn't want to see it. The first 3 years of my marriage were good, or so I thought. Evan and I lived in an apartment in Lincoln Park. Nothing fancy but enough, and we had this comfortable routine of working during the week and seeing our families on weekends. Miranda and Colin lived in Naperville, like 45 minutes from us, in a huge house that Colin's parents had helped them buy. Family. Dinners were always at my parents' house or Miranda's. Never mine, because I guess my apartment wasn't impressive enough. And I went, because that's what you do, right? You endure and smile and pretend everything's fine, even when your sister monopolizes every conversation and your parents look at her like she hangs the moon every night. Like 8 months ago, on a normal Tuesday, I came home early from work. I had a headache and my boss let me leave at 3 in the afternoon. Evan didn't know I was coming home early. I didn't tell him because literally I just wanted to get home, take ibuprofen and sleep for a while. I walked into the apartment and heard voices. At first I thought Evan had left the TV on, but then I realized it was my parents' voices. They were coming from Evan's phone, which was on the kitchen table on speaker. He was in the bathroom. I could hear the water running. And my parents were talking about Miranda. My mom was saying something like, "We need to make sure Ava doesn't find out yet. She's not ready to know." And my dad responded, "Miranda says she's going to end things soon anyway. She just needs time to figure out what to do about Colin." And then my mom said, "Well, Miranda's always had that special connection with Evan. Since she met him at the wedding, she said it. But we can't let this destroy the family." I stood there in the entrance of my own apartment, feeling like the floor was opening up beneath my feet. Evan came out of the bathroom, saw my face, looked at the phone on the table, and turned white. My parents kept talking, oblivious that I was listening. They hung up like 30 seconds later. I didn't scream, didn't cry, didn't make a scene. I just turned around and left. I drove aimlessly for like 2 hours, just going around the city, trying to process what I'd just heard. Evan called me like 25 times. My parents called me. Miranda called me. I didn't answer any of them. I went to a hotel near O'Hare Airport. One of those generic Marriotts where nobody knows you and nobody asks questions, and paid for a room for 3 nights. I needed to think. I needed to decide what to do, because at that moment my brain was like short-circuiting, trying to understand how long this had been going on, how many times they had lied to my face, how many family dinners I had endured while my husband and my sister and my own parents were betraying me. That night in the hotel, lying in that uncomfortable bed staring at the ceiling, I started putting the pieces together. Evan's business trips that seemed to coincide with times when Miranda said Colin was away. As the times, Miranda insisted I go shopping with her, but then canceled at the last minute. The way my parents always found excuses for Evan to spend time with Miranda, like, oh, Evan, why don't you help Miranda move that furniture? Or Evan, take your sister-in-law to the airport, we'll stay here with Ava. Everything made sense now, and it made me sick. Physically sick. I threw up like 3 times that night. The next day, I went back to the apartment when I knew Evan would be at work. I had like 6 hours to do what I needed to do. I found his laptop. The password was his mom's birthday because Evan wasn't creative with those things, and I started searching. Emails. Hundreds of emails between him and Miranda going back almost 2 years. 2 years. They'd been having an affair for 2 years. There were photos, text messages he had backed up to his email, everything. Photos of them in hotels, explicit messages, detailed plans of when and where to meet. And the worst part, the absolutely worst part, were the messages where they talked about me. Miranda wrote things like, "Poor Ava. She has no idea." And Evan responded, "I know, but I can't just leave her. I don't know how to do it." Like I was the problem. Like I was the one complicating their lives. I downloaded everything, every email, every photo, every message. I saved them on 3 different USB drives, and also uploaded them to a new Dropbox account. I created specifically for this. I wasn't going to lose this evidence. Then I searched his phone, which he had left charging on the nightstand, and found even more. There was a group chat between Evan, Miranda, and my parents, where they coordinated their stories, where my parents literally gave them advice on how to keep the secret. My own mother wrote a message that said, "Make sure not to meet in places where people who know Ava might see you." It was all there. The complete conspiracy of my own family to make me look like an idiot. I went back to the hotel. That night, I drank a cheap bottle of wine I bought at the 7-Eleven across the street and cried until I had no more tears left. But then, like at 3 in the morning, something changed. I didn't feel sad anymore. I felt furious. I was angry in a way I'd never been in my life, and I decided I wasn't going to be the silent victim. I wasn't going to make this easy for them. I wasn't going to just leave and let everyone continue with their perfect lives while I picked up the pieces. I went back to the apartment the next day. Evan was there. He looked destroyed, like he hadn't slept in days. He started apologizing, saying it had been a mistake, that he loved me, all the typical garbage liars say when they get caught. I told him we needed to talk, but that I wasn't ready yet, that I needed time. He agreed to anything, literally whatever, as long as I didn't leave him at that moment. I kept living there, sleeping in the guest room, acting like I was considering forgiving him. During that time, I organized my finances, talked to a lawyer without him knowing, and waited. Like 2 weeks after discovering everything, my mom called me. Her voice was all sweet and manipulative, and she said, "Ava, I need you to do me a favor. Miranda is pregnant, supposedly with Colin's baby, and I want you to organize the baby shower. It'll be a wonderful surprise for her." I stayed silent for a moment, processing this. Miranda was pregnant. My mom wanted me, the sister being cheated on by everyone, to organize a celebration for the baby that for all I knew could be my own husband's. The audacity was impressive, honestly. But I said yes. "Sure, Mom. I'd be happy to." The next 4 weeks, I spent planning the most elaborate baby shower in history. I rented a nice venue in Schaumburg, hired catering, decorators, everything. My parents were happy to pay, of course, anything for their precious Miranda. I invited the whole family, all of Miranda's friends, her co-workers, basically anyone who knew her. I sent like 100 invitations. And I asked my cousin Leah, who's an influencer and is always recording everything for her social media, to please document the entire event and live stream it on her Instagram. I told her it would be amazing to have that memory for Miranda. Leah has like 50,000 followers, so she was perfect for what I needed. During those weeks, I was also working on something else, a PowerPoint presentation. Elegant, well-designed, with background music, actor stid. The first slide said, celebrating new beginnings with a nice photo of a generic baby. The next 30 slides were all the evidence I had collected. Photos of Evan and Miranda together in hotels, screenshots of their most explicit messages, emails where my parents helped them cover everything up, messages where they talked about me like I was a nuisance. I organized everything chronologically, with dates and locations. I even included the messages from the family group chat. I saved everything on my laptop and on a backup USB. The day of the baby shower arrived. It was a Saturday in October. The weather was perfect. The venue looked beautiful, everything in shades of yellow and gray because supposedly Miranda didn't want to know the baby's sex. There were like 80 people there. Miranda arrived with Colin. She was wearing an expensive maternity dress, radiant, getting all the attention as always. My parents were there, smiling like they were the perfect family. Evan came with me. Obviously, he didn't know anything about what was about to happen. He still thought we were working on our relationship. I let the event go normally for like an hour. Food, silly baby shower games, gifts. Miranda was happy. She was the center of attention, exactly where she liked to be. Then, when everyone had eaten and was relaxed, I took the microphone. I said I wanted to make a special toast and show something I had prepared for my sister. My mom smiled at me. Miranda looked excited. Leah had her phone pointing at me, streaming everything live. I connected my laptop to the projector. The first slide appeared. Miranda and her new beginning, I said. And then I clicked. The second slide was a photo of Evan and Miranda kissing at a hotel entrance. The room went absolutely silent. I clicked again. A text message where Miranda told Evan Ava is working late. We can meet at your apartment. Click. An email. From my mother telling them where they could meet without being seen. Click. A photo of them in bed. Click. 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 I kept advancing the slides while the room exploded in chaos around me. Miranda screamed. Colin got up from his chair so fast he knocked it over. My parents tried to turn off the projector, but I had the remote control and didn't stop clicking. People took out their phones to record. Leah kept her live stream running, capturing every second. Evan tried to approach me, but an uncle of mine stopped him. I showed 30 slides in total. The last one said, "Congratulations on your new beginning, Miranda. You're going to need it." The place was a disaster. Miranda was crying hysterically. Colin was looking at her with an expression I'll never forget, like a mixture of horror and absolute disgust. My parents were yelling at me, "How dare you? You're ruining the family. You're ungrateful." Leah kept recording everything. I just stood there with the microphone, feeling more alive than I had felt in years. Then I said the only thing I had planned to say out loud. By the way, I already talked to my lawyer. The divorce papers are in process. And I left. I walked out of that venue with my laptop under my arm and drove straight to a friend's house where I'd been storing my most important things for the past few weeks. My phone exploded with messages. Hundreds of messages. From my parents, from Evan, from Miranda, from relatives who hadn't talked to me in years but now had opinions. I ignored them all. That night I slept better than I had in months. What happened after was like a domino effect I couldn't have predicted even in my best revenge fantasies. Colin kicked Miranda out of the house that same night. Literally threw her things in the driveway and changed the locks. He filed the divorce papers the following Monday, asking for a quick settlement with nothing for her because there was clear evidence of adultery. My parents took her in at their house. Obviously, because they were never going to let their precious Miranda suffer the consequences of her actions. But then something happened that I didn't know about. One of Miranda's close friends, Kara, had been at the baby shower. Kara was married to a guy named Mitchell. They had 2 kids. They seemed happy. After seeing the presentation, Kara started doing her own investigations because apparently her husband had had a very close friendship with Miranda. She found messages between Miranda and Mitchell. She discovered that Miranda had been having an affair with her husband too, that it had been happening at the same time as the affair with Evan. Basically, Miranda was seeing 2 married men simultaneously plus living with Colin. Kara contacted Colin. Between the 2 of them, they forced Miranda to get a paternity test. Turns out the baby wasn't Colin's. It was Mitchell's. The news spread like wildfire because, Obviously, Leah had streamed everything and the baby shower video had gone viral on TikTok and Instagram. Thousands of people watched Miranda get publicly exposed. The video had millions of views. People who didn't even know us had opinions about the situation. Mitchell left Miranda when he found out about the pregnancy. Kara left him. Colin finalized his divorce in record time, basically signed whatever just to get out of that nightmare. Evan called me like 200 times, sent flowers, showed up at my friend's house. I never responded to anything. My lawyer handled the entire divorce. Evan tried to fight for the apartment, but since I had all the evidence of his infidelity documented, my lawyer basically destroyed him. I kept the apartment, half our savings, and some of his retirement fund. The divorce was finalized like 2 months ago. Miranda tried to get back together with Evan after Mitchell left her. She sent him messages, showed up where he worked. But Evan, surprisingly, rejected her. Not because he had suddenly developed some kind of morals, but because he didn't want to deal with the drama of a baby that wasn't his and a woman who had been using him. Evan tried to call me a few weeks after the divorce, left me a voicemail saying he'd made the biggest mistake of his life, that Miranda had been a distraction, that I was his true love. I deleted the message without finishing listening to it. My parents have called me exactly twice since the baby shower. The first time to yell at me that I had destroyed the family and that they would never forgive me. The second time, like 3 months later, to say that Miranda was suffering and that I should be the big sister, that I should forgive and forget because family is the most important thing. I told them I didn't have a sister, that they stopped being my parents the day they chose to help hide the betrayal instead of telling me the truth and not to contact me again. I blocked their numbers after that, and the last time I heard anything about Miranda was like a month ago. A distant cousin told me that Miranda had the baby, a boy, and that she's still living with my parents because none of the men in her life want anything to do with her. Colin moved on with his life. He's dating someone new according to his Instagram. Mitchell is fighting for partial custody of the baby, but doesn't want anything with Miranda personally. Evan, from what I heard, moved to California for work, basically fleeing from all the scandal. Kara started a TikTok account telling her version of the story and has like 500,000 followers now. I sold the apartment 3 weeks ago. I couldn't keep living there with all those memories. I bought a smaller condo in Wicker Park, something that's completely mine, that nobody else has touched. I work from home now, changed agencies, earn a little less but have more peace of mind. I'm in therapy, which I probably should have started years ago. My therapist says I have trust issues, which, makes sense. But she also says that what I did at the baby shower, though extreme, was my way of reclaiming my power in a situation where they had taken away all my agency. I'm not sure if that makes it right, but I don't regret it either. Sometimes I think about Miranda, about how her perfect life collapsed in literally 10 minutes. Part of me feels something. I don't know if to call it pity or just sadness about how it all ended. But most of me feels that every person in that story got exactly what they deserved. My parents are stuck with an adult daughter and a grandchild, living the consequences of having raised someone who thought the rules didn't apply to her. Miranda lost everything: her marriage, her reputation, any respect people had for her. Evan lost his wife, his mistress, and probably any chance of having a stable relationship in the future because now he has this story following him everywhere. The other day, a friend asked me if I regretted making everything so public, choosing to humiliate Miranda that way instead of just leaving quietly. I told her the truth, that if it had just been between Evan and me, maybe I would have handled it differently. But when you involve my whole family, when my own parents actively participate in the betrayal, when they turn me into a joke without my knowledge, then the rules change. I wasn't going to be the one who left quietly, while they all continued with their lives like they hadn't done anything wrong. Was it petty? Yes. Was it vengeful? Absolutely. Do I care? Not really. Because for the first time in my life, I was the one who took control. I was the one who decided how the story was going to end. And if that makes me the villain in the version of events my parents tell, that's okay. I'd rather be the villain in their story than continue being the invisible victim in mine. I'm dating someone new now. Nothing serious yet, but it's nice. He's a high school teacher, never been married, doesn't know my family, and has no reason to know them. I told him everything from the beginning, because I don't want to have more secrets in my life. He listened to the whole story, saw the viral video because obviously it's still on the internet, and just said, "Wow, your family sounds toxic. I'm glad you got out of that." His simplicity in seeing it was refreshing. I don't know what's going to happen in 5 years, in 10, if I'm ever going to be able to have a relationship with my parents again, though honestly, I don't think I want to. If Miranda is going to fix her life somehow. If Evan is going to get married again and cheat on someone else, it's not my problem anymore. For the first time in 30 years, I'm living a life that's mine, where I'm not in anyone else's shadow, where I don't have to pretend everything's okay when it clearly isn't. People online still comment on the video from time to time. Some say I'm a hero, others that I'm crazy, some that both things are probably true. The video has like 5 million views now. It became one of those viral family drama videos that people share. Sometimes I read the comments, sometimes I don't. Some make me laugh, some are cruel, most are just people with opinions about a situation they're never going to fully understand because they weren't there. They didn't live years feeling like they weren't enough for their own family. What I do know is that that day at the baby shower, standing there with the remote control in my hand, watching how the truth destroyed the lies they had carefully built, I felt something I had never felt in the presence of my family. I felt powerful. I felt seen. I felt important. And maybe I needed to destroy everything to be able to build something new, something better, something that was truly mine. I don't know if that makes me a bad person, but I know it makes me a person who's no longer willing to be stepped on, and that, I guess, will have to be enough.